for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Just to start off, how does your campaign complement your presidential platform and your vision for TeamPact?
Could you rephrase that question?
How does your campaign and how you're running your campaign complement your platform and vision for TeamPact?
So, like, how does our message line up with
Yes.
practical side of it? Okay,
Yes. How does, since the whole point this year is that things are going to be more practical from now on.
Yeah.
How does your message practically affect TeamPact?
Yeah, I think a big pitfall within TeamPact and one that I've fallen into is just inauthenticity, or this idea that you have to put on a facade and you have to pretend to be somebody that you're not in order to be accepted. Especially within staffers, I found in having staffed and gotten to travel staff, it's so easy to fall into a performance mindset. And the whole root of our campaign is the idea that it's not performance, and it's not just trying to do things good enough, trying to be somebody that you're not, and self-glorifying. Essentially, it's all to the glory of God, and that comes from being authentic to who He made you to be. It doesn't mean not to be professional. It means to uphold excellence within what He's called you to do, not trying to mimic what somebody else is doing. And undignified really boils down to being willing to worship God above all else, even the opinions of others, and even this idea of striving for perfection, which we should always do in excellence, but we can only do out of the grace of God and from the perfection that was already accomplished by Jesus. We can't do anything good by ourselves. It has to be from the root of, all good things. In order to be good, it has to be from the Holy Spirit. So, yeah.
How would you say your testimony has impacted your message?
A huge part of my life has been worship, both musically and just from a lifestyle perspective. My first year at TeamPact, I was really far from God, and I came into it and just being encountered by just the love of Christ through the people I was with, both students and staffers. It softened my heart, and then on the last night, I encountered the presence of God like I hadn't in years, and it totally transformed my life. And I walked away from that, never the same, and I ended up going back the next year when I was like, oh, it's just a government camp. It ended up being one of the most spiritually renewing and convicting things that I've ever done. And it's honestly, so much of my testimony has been like struggling with all these things like pride, insecurity, all this self-focused stuff. But what I've learned, especially through TeamPact, whether that be through as a student or as staff, it's just been the idea of self-forgetfulness and forgetting about receiving the glory, but giving it all totally to God and not doing anything out of selfish ambition, but totally for others by the love of God. So, yeah.
How did you find your vice presidential pick, and how did your testimony and message, how did that influence your pick of who for vice president?
Yes, my initial pick was Samara Brown. I was actually going to be the vice presidential candidate. She was going to be the presidential candidate, and she was like, cool. And we were rolling with it for probably about a month or so, and she texted, and she's like, actually, I don't really want to be the presidential candidate. I can be the vice presidential candidate. You can be presidential. I was like, okay, cool. Oh, excuse me. And
Dr. Pepper moment.
Oh yeah, love Dr. Pepper. And she, after a while, she was like, actually, I don't really want to run. I want to take more of a back seat, but I'll be your campaign manager, which is what we based our whole announcement video off of. And I was like, well, now who do I run with? And I kind of went through a couple different people, and I was like, eh. And I thought of Kessid, and I was like, wait. I didn't know her super well at that point, but we had served on NatCon Worship the year prior, and I really admired like her heart of worship and just her genuineness and really living out just the same message that I knew God had given me. So I approached her with it. I told her about the message, and she loved it. She prayed about it. She was like, yes, I'd love to. So now we're here.
Great. We know Isaac very well personally. For those that don't know him, he's not a CEC kid. He does not have a tremendous amount of debate experience. So Isaac, how are you preparing for the debates and being on stage?
Yeah. One thing about Kessid is that she is a CC kid and is very big in debate and very well versed in all those things. So I've been learning a lot from her on that side of things. And a big thing that I've been kind of focusing in on is just learning everything from a fundamental perspective, especially about policy issue, just getting, like with the press release and everything, boiling everything down to a point that can be defended easily. Not getting caught up in all the definitions and all the like semantic side of things, but boiling it down to what's the root purpose, what's the cause, and what's the effect. And forming an opinion on that can be defended, and then from there extrapolating that into the areas that it needs to be, and being able to defend that in different places, and when necessarily boiling it back down to that fundamental truth and that fundamental principle, which I think will serve well in debates.
Very good.
So,
Awesome. In the spirit of authenticity, since you said that was such a big part of your campaign, what is one thing you would want the Team Pack student body to know about you before NACON?
probably that I'd love to just genuinely connect. I don't really see everybody as like, oh, you're somebody to go out, I need to get you to vote for me. That's kind of been the mindset I've tried to carry through our staffing and everything, is just like elections and everything like that's secondary to what the reason that I'm there. And I truly feel like God's put me on mission, especially within Team Pack, just to make connections with people and minister to people in whatever ways He allows me to. And come find me at NACON. I love to have a conversation, share some funny stories. I'm awful at sports, so don't ask me to play anything, but I'd love to talk, chill, play guitar, anything. Yeah.
All right. Well, that kind of leads us into what would your closing message be to an undecided voter who's watching this?
Honestly, may the best man win. I mean, if you think that somebody else performs better than me and Cassie, vote for him. It's not. Honestly, people really blow elections out of proportion sometimes, not everybody. But I've seen some people who get super caught up in like, oh, I have to have this perfect message and everything, I have to win. Like, honestly, some of my best friends are running this year, and I'd be just as happy if they won as if I won, And honestly, just have fun, enjoy it. We're enjoying it, we're having fun, and vote whoever you think does the best.
All right. Thank you very much for coming in, Isaac.
No problem.
Thank you for tuning in.